If you've ever come back to your solo RPG campaign after a little break, and you sat down and you looked at your paperwork and you thought to yourself, what the heck was I doing? You are not alone. In today's episode, what starts as a very simple catch-up session where I just thought my adventure was going to be banging against some jammed doors turns into an epic battle against a giant spider and an ending that I never saw coming. Hi, I'm Liz, and this is The Quiet Table. On this channel, I play narratively driven solo RPGs, and I show you exactly how chaotic, wild, and unpredictable this type of game can be. So if you're ready to see how today's game unfolds, let me take you to my quiet table and we'll get started. So as we get started here, there are a couple of things I want to point out. Number one is the fact that I have not played in a couple of weeks, and I know that this happens to you guys as well. Now, if you're anything like me, when you let more than a few days go by in your current campaign, you tend to lose touch. You lose that connection that you have with the character, or at least I do. So I always find it hard to get back into the swing of things after I've been away for a while. Now, I didn't not play because I wasn't interested. I didn't play because life got in the way. I'm sure, again, you know what that's like. Job, responsibilities, kids, family, health issues, you name it. Anything and everything can happen to keep you away from your game. So I'm hoping that by being very honest and transparent with you guys and showing you how I get back into the swing of things after I've been away for a while, it will give you the motivation and maybe the inspiration that you need to get back to your table and your game if you've been away from yours for a while as well. Now, the last time I played, Alendra was making her way through this dungeon, and she had just started exploring. Now, if you guys remember, this is the third quest on our list. It is to perform 2 jammed door tests on 2 different doors, and it is a quest given by Fletcher. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. I have done that repeatedly. If you haven't seen the previous videos, click on the playlist down below, and you can watch them all in order. All you need to know is that she needs to try this door key mall on 2 different jammed doors, take notes to see what happens. So she's already tried it on this jammed door right here, and the door did not open. So right off the bat, she knows that this door key mall is probably not all it's cracked up to be. So when she goes back and she reports her findings, she is most likely going to have to tell the Fletcher that this thing didn't work. But before she can do that, the task is to try it on 2 different jammed doors. She has one other door over here. This one is trapped and locked. She has tried to get through it. She's actually tried to get through both and has not been successful. She ended up wasting time, taking some damage, and right now, this is basically the area that is at her disposal, or of course, she can choose to leave. However, if she chooses to leave, then the quest will be considered failed, and she loses half of her gold pieces, which isn't that big of a deal, but I really don't want her to fail her first quest out as a baby adventurer. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine that her job for however long it takes is going to be to get through this jammed door. And either she will be successful in getting through it, or she will have to fail the quest and say, you know what, I give up, this isn't working. But she is going to attempt to get through the jammed door because it is easier for her to break down than the trapped and locked door is going to be to get through. But before we do any of that, a couple of my very keen-eyed viewers noticed that when Alendra was going through the tomb in the previous episode, I forgot to mark down that she spent an hour doing this, and so we would have had to roll for a random encounter. So before I go any further with her trying to break down this door, I am going to fill this in and roll for a random encounter. All right, so I'm going to roll a d10, and if it's a 5 or less, then we have a random encounter. It's a 4. We have a random encounter. So I am going to roll on the encounters table, but remember that this particular quest has a -30 encounter modifier. So whatever I get, I'm going to subtract 30 from it, and that is the beastie that she is going to be fighting. We got a 5. Typically what I do in this case, and again, I don't know if this is rules as written or if they're just my rules, but I re-roll because I can't go 30 below 5. So I got a 58. -30, that's a 28. A 28 has her fighting a giant spider. Now, I will tell you from my previous experiences playing this game, giant spiders are my nemesis. Nemesises? Arch enemies. All right, so I'm just going to write down all the information here for the giant spider. The attack value for the giant spider is 30. It has a defense of 2, and its damage ability is -1, and it has 6 hit points. And if she defeats it, she gets to loot on table P1. As far as special abilities go, it has the web ability, and this is what nearly killed me previously. So let's go through the web ability, and I can tell you a little bit about what that does. At the end of each combat round in which the monster is still alive, the adventurer makes an avoid web test to determine if they will get an attack or make a combat action in the next combat round. So basically what happens is that at the end of each combat round, the spider spits out a web. So if she saves, then she attacks as normal. If she fails, then she forfeits her next attack, combat action, escape. She forfeits everything. She's basically wrapped up in a glob of web. Not fun. So let's see how this goes. I'm a little nervous. So from a narrative perspective, here is what we are going to say is happening. Alendra retraces her steps. She heads back the way she came, going toward the jammed door that she couldn't get through earlier. The dungeon is quiet, except for the sound of her boots on stone. She keeps one hand on the hilt of her rapier, and in the other she's carrying the master key maul, ready to try again once she reaches the door. As she rounds the corner, though, something catches her attention. There's a faint scraping sound behind her. So she stops. Turning, she sees movement near a pile of fallen stone. From a narrow crack in the wall, something crawls out. Long legs, then a round, dark body. It's a spider. It's big. It's way too big. It must have been hiding there the first time she passed through, just waiting in the dark, and that creeps her out. Now, maybe disturbed by her movement, or her scent, or the scent of blood, because she has had combat here before, it's coming out, and it's heading straight for her. Alendra drops into a ready stance and draws her rapier. So we can start going through our combat round again. Here's the handy sheet. I'm not going to go through it again. We are just going to play it as I normally play it. And if you need a recap of how this works, please go back to the previous video where I explain it all. So the first thing we're going to do is roll a d10 to see what the monster does. We got a 7. The spider will attack. But first, Alendra attacks. So she rolls a D100. She's using a rapier. That is a strength weapon, and her strength is 60. So if she rolls a 60 or less, then she successfully hits. That's a 41. She does successfully hit the spider. Now we're going to roll a d10 and a d6 to see where she hits it and how much damage she does. So she hits it in the arms. So I'm going to say that the spider's front legs is what she hits. And she does 3 points of damage. However, as a reminder, the spider has 2 defense points. So she actually only does 1 point of damage. So we're going to bring the spider down to 5 hit points. And at the same time, the spider attacks her as well. So the spider needs to get a 30 or less to hit. 26, so the spider successfully hits. The spider hits Alendra in the torso, which is a +1 damage modifier. And I'm just going to remind myself if she's wearing anything on her torso. I don't think she is, so I don't think she can deflect any of this. Nope, nothing on her torso. So 2 points of damage. However, it has a -1 to its damage. So 1 point of damage for Alendra in the torso. As the spider scuttles forward, Alendra reacts first. She draws her rapier in a smooth motion and lunges, aiming for its front legs. The blade strikes true, slicing across 2 of the spider's limbs. It screeches and pulls back slightly, but its thick, armored hide deflects most of the blow. Only a shallow cut lands, just enough to make it really angry. And then it strikes. With a sudden burst of speed, it launches itself at her, one of its barbed legs catching her square in the torso. The blow lands hard, knocking the wind from her for a moment. They square off again, both wounded now, and neither one is willing to back down. So she took 1 point of damage, so we need to mark that on her sheet here. She's already down to 14 hit points. She is going down to 13. And the spider has its web ability, which, because we're at the end of the round, it gets to use now. So the spider spits out this web, and Alendra has to avoid the web. To do that, she needs to test her dexterity plus 20. I'm going to interpret that to mean that I can add 20 points to her dexterity. So that makes it a 50. Thank goodness. And she doesn't have any additional points for dodge, so it's a straight up 50. So she needs to get 50 or lower to avoid this web. 12. She successfully avoids the web. Just as Alendra regains her footing, the spider rears back. Its mandibles twitch, and with a sudden hiss, it spits a thick stream of webbing straight toward her. Instinct takes over as she ducks low and rolls to the side, the sticky web splattering against the stone behind her. Strands of it cling to the rock, stretching and sagging like a net. Alendra comes up in a crouch, breath steady, blade still in hand. The spider shifts, legs tapping against the ground in frustration. So now we go back to the top of the round. Once again, first thing we do is we test to see what the monster does. Rolled a 4, monster will attack. Seems pretty much on par for the spider that it's going to attack. But she gets to go first, so we need 60 or less for her to hit. 59. Oh, perfect. I rolled a D100, but the same as a D10, so that's a 9. So she hits it in the legs. So I'm going to say that she's hitting the back legs of the spider, and that is a -1 to the damage. She rolled a 3, -1 is a 2, but the spider also has a 2 to defense, so she actually doesn't do any damage to it. This is the part where we say, womp womp. So at the same time, the spider goes for her. It needs a 30 or less to hit her. It got a 2. Lucky, lucky spider. So it hits her in the hands. She doesn't have any armor on her hands, so nothing she can deflect. It does 4 points of damage. However, its modifier is a -1, so it does 3 points of damage to poor Alendra, who might not actually make it out of this encounter alive. Okay, she's down to 10 hit points. That really hurt. Alendra strikes again, darting in low to catch the spider's back legs with her rapier. The blade connects, but this time, it's like hitting bark. The spider's thick hide absorbs the blow entirely. No damage, just a scrape. Before she can reposition, the spider lunges. One of its sharp legs lashes out, catching Alendra square across the hands. The pain is immediate, sharp and jarring, and her grip on the rapier almost slips. She grits her teeth, holding on, but the hit rattled her. She stumbles back, breathing hard now, blood running down her fingers. We're at the bottom of the round. We got to test its web ability again. So Alendra needs to make a dexterity saving throw of, what did we say? 50, right? Yes. So 30 plus 20 is 50. Why am I rolling the blue dice along with my pretty pink ones? That is weird. All right, bringing out the pretty pink one because my OCD is kicking in. All right, so let's see if she makes it. We need, what did we say? 50 or less. 60. She is enwebbed. That means that she forfeits her next round entirely. So now that the spider has her in this web, let's see what it does. Because we are once again at the top of the round. It attacks. Of course it attacks. If you were a spider and you had your prey wrapped up, wouldn't you attack? You would attack. It's attacking. Okay, it hits her arms this time. Please tell me she's wearing something on her arms. No, of course she's not wearing anything on her arms. So no ability to deflect. And it's doing 3 points of damage to her arms, -1. So 2 points of damage while she is wrapped up and she can do nothing in return. So 2 points of damage, that brings her to 8. By the way, while she is all wrapped up in this web, she also can't drink her healing potion. She has a healing potion that she could technically drink as an action on her combat turn, but she can't do it if she's all wrapped up in a web. So at the end of this round, she is starting to break free of the web. That is how I'm going to narrate this. And the spider spits another string of web. In order to avoid it, we need to roll a 50 for Alundra. 54. Once again, she does not avoid it. Once again, the spider attacks her. It needs a 30 to hit her. 91. And this time, the spider goes for her, and somehow it misses. Alundra braces herself, but it's no use. The spider launches another stream of web, and this time it catches her full on. The thick, sticky strands wrap around her arms and her torso, pinning her in place. She struggles, teeth clenched, but she's stuck. She can't move, she can't fight, and worst of all, she can't even reach for the healing potion at her belt. The spider doesn't wait. It skitters forward, rearing up to strike, and slams one of its legs down hard against her arm. There's nothing to block the blow. No armor, no defense, just the raw sting of pain. She fights against the webbing, twisting and pulling, trying to tear herself free, but it clings fast. She's caught and she's vulnerable, and the spider is not finished. It rears back again, another line of web forming between its jaws. It spits, and again Alundra tries to dodge, but she's too slow, given that she's already matted up in this webbing. The web catches her a second time, layering over the first. She's practically fully cocooned now. But just when it looks like the spider has the upper hand, it lunges in for another strike and somehow misses. The leg sails past her head. Maybe it's getting overconfident. Maybe it's just cocky. Who knows? But it slams into the stone with a sharp crack. Dust sprays up from the floor. And somehow there's a small breath of space. Alundra doesn't have much fight left in her, but she does have one very determined will to live. So once again, we're at the bottom of the round. It is going to spit its web again. We need a 50 or less for her to get herself out of this cocoon. 33. She can take an action now, which is great. I just need to decide if she's going to attack again or if she's going to drink the healing potion at her belt. I'm not sure yet. Let's see what the monster is going to do first. That's a 3. It will attack, because of course it will. I'm not going to risk it because if she gets webbed again, she could potentially die here. So she is going to use the light healing potion that she has on her belt. Way back when I started this character, I decided to put one light healing potion on her belt and then put the rest in her backpack. So she has 2 more in her backpack, but she cannot use those during combat because she can't reach in her backpack and pull them out while she's fighting. She can, however, use the one on her belt. In case you're wondering why I didn't put all of them on her belt, it's because if a monster hits her in the belt area, which would be rolling for a waist hit, so if I roll an 8, then she has to do a belt check and she could potentially have her healing potions destroyed. Ask me how I know that. So as a result, I tend to only wear one on my character's belt at any given time. So she has a light healing potion, which is fantastic, and she is going to drink it as her main action this round. I've been calling it a light healing potion. It's actually a lesser healing potion. She can drink it to restore up to 4 lost hit points. I don't have to roll for it. If she needs 4 hit points, she gets 4 hit points. If she needs less than that, she can get whatever that is. So she's going to drink it and regain 4 hit points. So let's give her back 4 hit points. That brings her back up to 12. However, we need to remove this. So she no longer has a healing potion handy. Alundra yanks hard against the webs, twisting her body until finally, snap! The strands tear loose. With one last pull, she breaks free of the sticky cocoon and stumbles back, panting and sore, but at least no longer trapped. She doesn't hesitate. Her hand goes straight to the belt at her hip, fingers fumbling for the small glass vial tucked securely in its loop. She yanks it free, pops the cork with her thumb, and downs the contents in one swift motion. The liquid is sharp and bitter, with a faint metallic taste, but she feels it almost instantly. Warmth spreads from her core, pulsing outward through her limbs. The aching in her arms fades. The tightness in her chest eases a fraction. Her body starts knitting itself back together in small, almost imperceptible ways. Nothing flashy, but it's enough. Enough to keep her standing. Enough to give her a fighting chance. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, eyes locked on the spider as it rears up again to strike. And it does strike because it still gets its turn. So once again, it needs a 30 or less to hit her. 27. This is the world's luckiest spider. And it is probably going to kill my adventure. So 27. And it hits her in her main weapon. There's no damage modifier, so I'm just going to say that it hits her rapier and maybe it twists her knuckles or twists her wrist, something like that. We'll see. 3 points of damage. There's no damage modifier. -1. That's 2 points of damage for Alendra, and she's suddenly feeling very happy that she actually took that potion. So back down to 10 hit points for Alendra. And after it cracks her in, I guess, the wrist, it's going to go ahead and try to spit out another web. So she needs a 50 or less to avoid it. 78. Once again, Alendra is wrapped up tightly in this web. Let's see what the spider's going to do. Top of the round. It's a 7. It's going to attack. Of course it's going to attack. Alendra there's nothing that she can do. So 30 or less for the spider to hit her. 49, it misses her again. Just as the warmth from the healing potion settles into her bones, the spider lashes out again. This time, it doesn't go for her body. One of its jagged limbs smashes down against her rapier, catching her right at the wrist. Pain shoots up her arm as the blade is knocked sideways in her grip. It doesn't break or crack, but her wrist twists hard, and it takes everything she has not to drop the weapon outright. Before she can recover, the spider rears back and spits again. Alendra tries to dodge, but she's too slow. The web wraps around her once more, sealing her arms against her sides and locking her legs together. And just like that, she's stuck again, and the spider is closing in. But as it strikes, once again, its aim is just slightly off, and the limb slams into the ground beside her, scraping stone instead of her skin. Dust flies up. Alendra's breathing is hard, and her chest is being crushed by the web. Her heart is hammering. The rapier is still in her hand, and she's not out yet, but she's literally hanging on by a thread. So the spider is going to once again attempt to re-web her. We need a 50 or less. We got a 92. She is once again stuck. Let's see what the spider does. The spider will attack. Surprise, surprise. Needs a 30 or less. 94, the spider misses. And once again, it is going to attempt to web her to keep her there. We need a 50 or less. 41. Alendra makes her way out of the web, and she is still in this. Alendra braces herself as the spider launches another spray of webbing, and once again it hits. The sticky strands slam into her chest and arms, wrapping her tight. She's frozen again for what feels like the 100th time. Every second she spends tangled up like this brings her closer to disaster. The spider lunges in for the kill, but its strike goes wide. Its legs slam against the stone floor beside her with a harsh crack, missing by inches. Dust explodes into the air, but Alendra isn't hit. And just as it rears back to trap her again, she manages to cut her way free. This time she twists with the pull of the web, finds a weakness in the tension, and rips her arms free. Then she shoves the cocooning strands off her chest and kicks her legs loose, staggering forward with her rapier still clenched tight in her aching hand. Top of the round, she's out of the cocoon, and she really needs to kill this thing. So let's see what the spider does. It's going to attack, and she will also attack. So we need a 60 or less for her to hit the spider. 82, she misses. The spider tries to hit her, 30 or less. 79, the spider misses. But the spider does try to web her. She needs a 50 or less. 47. So at this point, they're basically just circling each other, and I don't think I need to continue narrating because you guys get it. Top of the round once again, it's going to attack. Alendra goes first, 60 or less. 34, she hits. She hits it in the head. All right, Alendra. So that's a +3 damage modifier. That's 3 points of damage, so 6 total. However, it has a 2 to its defense, so 4 points of damage to the spider. Hallelujah. It's not dead yet, but it is down to 1 hit point. At the same time, the spider attacks her. 64, it misses, probably because it is pretty dazed from the hit it just took to its head. However, it does try to web her, and it succeeds in webbing her at the end of that round with a 59. They circle each other, both wounded, both exhausted. The webbing hangs from the walls and floor like cobwebbed curtains, the air thick with tension. Strike after strike, dodge after dodge, neither one landing, both refusing to fall. And then finally, Alendra sees her opening. She lunges forward, driving her rapier straight toward the spider's head. The blade hits with a crack, piercing just above its cluster of eyes. The creature lets out a sharp, alien screech and reels back, legs scrambling wildly against the stone floor. It's still alive. Just barely, but it's still alive. The blow dazed it. Blood, black and slick, drips onto the stone. The spider stumbles, swings a leg wildly at Alendra in retaliation, but it misses, staggering off balance. And even still, it manages one last desperate shot of webbing. Before Alendra can move, the strands hit her square in the chest and shoulders, wrapping her in a tight bind that is starting to become familiar. All right, top of the round. 7. It's going to attack. Alendra can't do anything. It gets an 88, so it misses again. It is once again going to attempt to web her and keep her stuck there. 70, it manages to keep her stuck in its web. Top of the round once more. We got a 6. It's going to attack. 51, it misses again, probably because it is so dazed and really literally on its last legs. It just keeps missing her, but it is going to attempt to web her one more time. 93, it keeps her webbed. Top of the round. 3, it's going to attack. She can't do anything. 20, it hits her. So she is webbed, and the spider that is barely hanging on manages to hit her. It hits her in the main weapon, so again, I'm gonna say like fingers, whatever it manages to grab with her being webbed. I'm gonna have to think about this creatively when I narrate. But look, it does 6 points of damage, so luckily no damage modifier. She is trapped though, so it makes sense that it would do max damage. And thankfully it has a -1 on its damage, so it does 5 points of damage. Alendra is not looking good at this point. 5 points of damage brings her down to 5 hit points, and she has no more healing potions available to her right now. She can take some when she's out of combat, if she ever makes it out of combat. And then at the end of the round, it is once again going to spit at her and try to web her and keep her where it likes to have her. 13, she manages to break free. So now it's a real showdown. The spider has 1 hit point left. She has 5 hit points left. They're both in really bad shape, but they're on even footing at the top of the next round. So, top of the round. 2. Monster has less than half its hit points, which it does. It gains attack value +5. So it's not going anywhere. It's not going to try to escape, but it does get a 5 to its attack value, so it's up to 35. Alendra is going to attempt to hit first, 60 or less. 73, she misses. Spider attempts to attack, 35 or less. 76, it misses. They are both exhausted, but it does try to web her again.
She needs a 50 or less. 42. She makes it. All right, so she's not webbed. Top of the round. Let's see what the spider does. 3. It's going to attack. She goes first. 84. She misses. Spider attacks. This time it doesn't have the extra attack value. So we're back to 30. 13. It hits. This could be it. 4. So it hits her in the arms for 3 points of damage minus 1. That's 2 points of damage. So she is down to 3 hit points. At the same time, it spurts out another big glob of web trying to trap her. She needs a 50 or less. 14. She makes it. Top of the round. A 1. Monster has less than half its hit points. It gains attack value of 10. So now it is up to 40 for this particular round. Alendra tries to attack it. 97. She misses again. It tries to attack her. 40 or less. 22. Anybody out there taking bets to see if she's going to make it or not? It strikes her back. Gets a +2 to its damage. 4 plus 2 is 6. Minus 1 is 5. Alendra has 3 hit points. Alendra is down. We're going to narrate this, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about fate points and life. Those are both important, so we'll talk about that in a second, but I want to narrate and memorialize Alendra's epic death in her first ever quest at the legs of a giant spider. She's shaking now. Blood on her arms, sweat in her eyes, her grip loose and unsteady, but she refuses to stop. Alendra lunges one last time. The rapier slips, glancing off the spider's thick hide. No bite, no finish. Just another breathless miss in this endless back and forth. The spider doesn't hesitate. It lunges with terrifying speed, more instinct than aim, and this time it finds its mark. One heavy leg slams into her side, driving her backward. Then another rakes across her back, sharp and brutal. She cries out, the sound echoing through the stone hall. Her body folds under the blow. She crashes to the ground, the air knocked from her lungs, the rapier clattering beside her. Her vision narrows. Her limbs go cold. Every part of her screams to get up, to move, to fight. But she can't. The spider looms above her, swaying, dripping, barely clinging to life. And so is she. She's also barely clinging to life. But only one of them is still on their feet. And with that, Alendra's eyes close, maybe for the last time. Okay, let's talk a little bit about fate points and life points. Both of those are very important in D100 Dungeon. Okay, let's start by taking a look at fate points. As you can see here, Alendra starts the game with 3 fate points. Fate points are rare blessings that have been granted by the gods to the adventurer because they have fallen into their favor. They can be spent to re-roll any die or dice just rolled, a d6, a d10, or either the tens die or the unit die, or a combination of dice used for any roll. If the player is unhappy with the new result, they can carry on spending fate points and re-rolling until they are satisfied with the new result, or they wish to stop. So, just to make this very clear, I could have at any point used a fate point to re-roll a dice. So, for example, when she missed hitting the spider or when the spider hit her, I had 3 of these available to me. However, I personally do not use fate points when I play. The reason why is because I actually really like the life and death consequences of my games. I want to feel like my adventurer could actually perish. I want to feel those stakes. I want my heart pounding. I don't want to know that I have a get out of jail free card. I kept it here because maybe at some point I might choose to use it, but I have never used it and I've never regretted it. So all of that to say that when you're playing D100 Dungeon, please feel free to use the fate points. That's what they're there for. Just because I don't use them doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. So in case you're wondering and maybe yelling at me or yelling at your screen that I should be using my fate points and Alendra doesn't have to die, you're right, she didn't have to die, but I refuse to use them. And one of the reasons I refuse to use them is because we have life points. Like a cat has 9 lives and can cheat death on many occasions, the adventurers are blessed with the same luck and have a number of lives which can be used each time they would lose enough hit points to kill them. Whenever an adventurer's hit points is reduced to 0 or less, the player may spend 1 life point to cheat death and instantly restore all of the adventurer's lost hit points and remove all diseases and poison pips shaded on the adventure sheet. Sadly, when an adventurer has no life points remaining and have lost their last hit point, they have died, and it is time to begin a new adventure. So, in case you were worried about Alendra, fear not. We are going to use one of her life points. We are going to say that she now has 2 life points. If she had a poison or disease, we could take those off. She does not have either. So, you will see how I narrate her coming back to life in the next video. Thank you so much for playing along with me. This was a crazy session that went to a place I did not expect it to go. I thought she was going to spend her entire time banging against this jammed door, which she didn't even get to because she had this epic battle with a giant spider. And the giant spider in this game continues to be my nemesis, my arch enemy. Damn you, giant spider. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, anything at all, if you want to talk about RPGs, role-playing, solo role-playing, D100 Dungeons, leave me a comment below. And when you're ready to go adventuring again, you know where to find me. See you at the quiet table.